Today we commence the 20th juz in Taraweeh, inshaAllah. And the 20th juz begins with the last portion of Surah An-Naml. And the opening passage of this juz, it poses some questions to people, and those questions are proving the existence and the power of Allah Azza wa Jal. So he asks, who else is it then? Amman, who else is it then? If it is not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then who else created the earth, the skies, and then produced water, and through that water produced all of these beautiful gardens and crops? It was not in your capacity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it was not in your capacity to create a system through which things are grown from the ground. Had this system not already been created for you, there was nothing you could have done to produce something from this soil and from this dirt. So, after seeing that sign, can you fathom, can you think that there is another deity besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Then he asks, who else is it then that has made this earth stable for you? And the earth being stable it's rather interesting, because the earth is not stable. The earth is moving. It is rotating on its axis and it's revolving in its orbit. So the earth is in movement, but we don't feel the movement. So to take an unstable object that is spinning, the estimate is close to 1,000 kilometers an hour. It is spinning on its axis, and it's moving at a very fast pace through its orbit. To take something like that and make it stable, it's kind of like you have a car that's driving in the rain. Now, anyone who's seen cars in the rain will see that as the car goes across that wet road, the beads of water, they collect on the tires, and then what do the tires do? They spin the water off. And the faster the car is going, the further the spray of water goes. These are those drops that cannot stay on the tires because the tires are moving so fast. And that car will be going at whatever speed, 60 kilometers an hour, maybe 100 kilometers an hour on a highway. But imagine this massive globe which is spinning at 1,000 kilometers an hour. So what should be happening to you and I? We should be spinning off far into space at that kind of velocity. But we don't feel anything. So who has done that? Who has done this? So after making it stable, then he has produced rivers and streams, put mountains on top of it, and even the systems of water. First of all, it would be, we've seen what happens to rain on those tires, but look at this massive globe. Most of it is covered with water. And then within those bodies of water are so many miracles, like two different types of water, two different colors, consistencies of water flowing side by side, and one can see that they're flowing. There is some kind of an unseen partition between the two bodies of water, but they're not crossing over and mixing. And who is it then that responds to the person in distress when they call upon them and remove the difficulties? And who is it that has made your system of procreation such that you come in generations? You come in waves. One generation comes, leaves another behind, then the other leaves another behind. And each generation is building something, constructing something, producing things, discovering things, and the next generation comes and builds on top of that. Who has created this system? And then the ability to navigate in the world, on dry land and in the oceans. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends winds, and the winds are mentioned with the whole bunch of functions in the Quran. But one of those winds has only one function, and that is to make the people that are expecting rain be happy. That's it. And this is that wind that brings the smell of rain. It's not doing anything else. Other kinds of winds they're performing immense functions that the Quran talks about. But then at the end of all of that, there is one wind, one breeze that comes just to bring the scent of rain, to make farmers happy. That rain is coming now, you can be content. So who does that? Who makes such intricate arrangements for you? And who is it that creates things the first time and will recreate them? So these are some very powerful, compelling questions that the juz opens with. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, look, there are many things that are unseen. There are many things that are hidden from you. Allah Azza wa Jal has knowledge of those unseen things. No one else does. But those unseen things cannot be denied. Those factors are at work. Gravity cannot be seen with the naked eye, yet it cannot be denied. There are many forces in this universe that cannot be seen, but they cannot be denied either. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says there are many things behind your creation, and there are many things that lie in waiting ahead of you that you cannot see, but they also cannot be denied. People have, from time immemorial, denied the resurrection. How is this possible once our bones have decomposed? Yes, people have been talking about this. There is no evidence. And these are just stories of the past. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, go travel in the world and see what happened to people that did not listen, did not obey to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at their outcomes. And the outcomes of people and the outcomes of actions and deeds will tell you that there is a creator who is doing all of this. And that He is not powerless. He does carry out consequences for those people that stand up against His commandments. So on these themes, belief, tawheed, akhirah, the Surah An-Naml comes to a conclusion. Then we move into Surah Al-Qasas, which means the narrative. And this surah takes its name from the story of Musa alayhi salam. In fact, the word is used in the surah at one point when Musa alayhi salam goes to Shu'aib alayhi salam. فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُ وَقَصَّ عَلَيْهِ الْقَصَصِ قَالَ لَا تَخَفْ. The narrative. So the narrative of Musa alayhi salam, what has transpired with Musa alayhi salam since his birth. Now, this Surah Al-Qasas it's one in, you can say, almost a series of surahs. So, it was probably revealed very soon after Surah An-Naml, which precedes it. And Surah An-Naml was probably revealed very soon after Surah Ash-Shu'ara. So, Ash-Shu'ara and An-Naml and Surah Al-Qasas, they were revealed in quick succession, one after the other. And this surah is very interesting because this is around the middle part of the nubuwah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Mecca. So in those 13 years, this was probably revealed 6 or 7 years into his nubuwah. So the theme here is opposition and building an opposition, creating a situation against someone, yet that person coming victorious out of it. Now, in the case of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he was set into the water in some kind of a container, a basket, a chest. He was cast into the water. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired his mother to do that and promised her that I'm going to return your son to you. I'm going to return him to you. You don't worry. Similarly, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being prepared for the time when he will have to leave. He will have to leave his people. In fact, when Khadija radiallahu anha took him to Waraqa ibn Nawfal, her cousin, that look, he has seen such and such things, he has heard such and such things, he has experienced this revelation, do you know anything about it? So Waraqa said, yes, the same angel that came to Musa has come to you, and if what you're saying is true, it's only a matter of time before your people expel you. He said, what? My people are going to expel me? He said, anyone who has come with this message has been opposed and driven out by his people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing him for that time. But the glad tiding is given to Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, to Musa alayhi salam's mother, that no, I'm going to return him to you. Similarly, when Musa alayhi salam grows up, what happens? He is forced to leave. He is forced to leave, but then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings him back. So another demonstration of having to leave, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bringing back. At the end of the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeats the same message. إِنَّ الَّذِي فَرَضَ عَلَيْكَ الْقُرْآنَ لَرَادُّكَ إِلَى مَعَادٍ. Don't worry, a time is going to come when you will also have to leave, but Allah is going to bring you back into your hometown. Allah is going to bring you back to Makkah, victorious. Just like Musa alayhi salam came back, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him victory. Another common theme between the beginning of the surah and the end of the surah is that it talks about Fir'aun's arrogance. إِنَّ فِرْعَوْنَ عَلَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Fir'aun acted very arrogantly. He behaved very arrogantly. And that arrogance, pride, led him to belittle others, to mistreat them, and to carry out great acts of oppression against people. Towards the end of the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about Qarun. And Qarun was someone who was extremely wealthy. He was not from the indigenous Egyptians like Pharaoh was. He was not a Copt, but rather he was from Bani Israel. And he was one of those rare people that had amassed a lot of wealth in that time, which was a very strange thing for somebody of Bani Israel to build wealth in those circumstances when they're being oppressed by Pharaoh and tormented by Pharaoh. So Musa alayhi salam told him that, look, you have this wealth, you need to pay zakat. And he refused. He refused. And people said, look, you're acting, this wealth has kind of gotten to your head. So people said, look, don't be so conceited and so arrogant. إِذْ قَالُ لَهُ قَوْمُهُ لَا تَفْرَحْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْفَرِحِينَ. And what Allah has given you so much, so use some of it to build your akhirah. So this is people motivating him, encouraging him. Use some of it to build your akhirah. Don't leave your dunya. وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيا. Don't leave your share in dunya. Enjoy your life here in dunya, but you have so much. Use this to build your akhirah. He said, why? I have earned this through my own skills, through my own knowledge, through my own cleverness. And like we say, this is my hard-earned money. So why should I fix and set a share for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a share for poor people? Why should I do this? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that, look, doesn't he see that Allah Azza wa Jal has destroyed people even wealthier and greater in power than him? So one day, he was out with in all his pomp and glory, with his horses, his slaves, very, very beautifully dressed. It was a massive procession. And there he was, moving through this procession with great pride. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at that time, everyone was saying, wow, Ya laytanana mithla ma utiya Qarun. Look at what he has. If only we had something like that. Just like people do today. They see somebody with something very expensive. They see somebody who has a private jet. Oh wow, I wish I had that. Kids see people driving fancy cars. Oh wow, I wish I had that. So that's what people did. Look at that. If only we had what Qarun had. Look at how much he has. Look at how lucky he is. At that time, the people of knowledge corrected people, and this is actually the function of the people of knowledge, to correct the direction of society. He said, look, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to someone in compensation of good deeds is much greater and much bigger than what this person has. You will get whatever rizq is written for you. Focus on your a'mal, focus on correcting your deeds. And just as this was happening, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the earth to open up and swallow Qarun, and swallow all of his wealth and his property and everything that he had. This was a man who had so much wealth that the keys of his wealth would require an entire caravan. مَا إِنَّ مَفَاتِحَهُ لَتَنُوءُ بِالْعُصْبَةِ أُولِي الْقُوَّةِ. It would require a whole group of people just to manage the keys of his treasures. And in one shot, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the earth to split open. It swallowed him, and it was all gone. And then people said, oh, wow, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give rizq to whom He wants, and He can take it away from whom He wants. Allah has been kind to us. If He hadn't, then the same outcome would have been ours. So at the conclusion of this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, tying into the beginning of the theme of the surah, تِلْكَ الدَّارُ الْآخِرَةُ نَجْعَلُهَا لِلَّذِينَ لَا يُرِيدُونَ عُلُوًا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَلَا فَسَادًا وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Akhirah is such a thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to people who rid themselves of two tendencies. One is the tendency or the desire to be high, to be prominent. People of Akhirah, لَا يُرِيدُونَ عُلُوًا فِي الْأَرْضِ. They do not want prominence in this world. They're not trying to elevate themselves over other people, have a higher ranking than other people from a worldly sense. This is not their goal. The second thing is, wala fasada. They are not causing disruptions in the world. They're not causing trouble. They're not ruining systems. They're not tearing things apart. They're not causing damage. And they're not spoiling the otherwise calm and peaceful systems of the world. And akhirah is for the people of taqwa. So this is how the beginning of the surah and the end of the surah tie up. Now in between is that story of Musa alayhi salam, when after his mother sets him into the water and promises that he's going to return Musa alayhi salam to her, this box that is carrying Musa alayhi salam ends up in front of the palace of Fir'aun. And they said, what do we do? This is a child. This was the season, the year in which they were slaughtering all male children in Bani Israel. Because the fortune tellers of Fir'aun had told him that, look, we're seeing that there's going to be a child, there's going to be a boy from Bani Israel that is going to be the end. He's going to be the cause of the end of your kingdom. So he said, okay, that's easy enough, we'll just kill all the boys. But then they said, well, if you kill all the boys, then you won't have any servants. So he said, okay, we'll kill them every second year. And so this was one of the years in which they were killing all the children. Khair, when this child sort of floats up in front of the castle of Fir'aun, says, what do we do? The wife of Fir'aun speaks out and says, don't kill this one, let's take him as our own child. So he did not have a son. She said, let's take him as our own son, we will look after him. So he agreed to it, and the interesting thing was, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had prohibited Musa alayhi salam from taking the milk of any woman. Now this child is too young to eat any other food, and he's not taking the milk of any woman. So Musa alayhi salam's mother had sent his sister to go and see what's happening, because news had spread that a child has been found, and there's a great discussion and there's a lot of things going, so go see what's happening. So she watched from a distance, and when she sees that all of these nursing women are being brought to feed this child, but this child is refusing to take anyone's milk, so she said, I know a family that can take care of this for you, and they will look after this child. Said, okay, bring it right now, we're getting desperate because this child is in dire need of milk. So who does she bring? She brings her mother, the mother of Musa alayhi salam. The moment she comes, right away Musa alayhi salam starts drinking her milk. Fir'aun says, okay, good, the problem is solved. Let's hire you for this. So now we are going to hire you. So what's happening? Musa alayhi salam comes back to his mother. And now who is paying for their bills? Fir'aun is paying for their bills. And once he is weaned on the expense of Fir'aun, Fir'aun also takes the responsibility of the upbringing of Musa alayhi salam. But here is the thing, Musa alayhi salam, when he senses what's going on, what Fir'aun is doing, he expresses open disagreement to all of this, that this is unacceptable. And he is always siding with Bani Israel. Inside he knows he is from Bani Israel, so he's always siding with them, he's always supporting them. And now he grows up, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him all of this knowledge and influence. And one night, as he is patrolling through the streets, he sees two people quarreling, two people fighting. And one of them is from Bani Israel, the other is the Coptic. And he sees this situation, the man from Bani Israel seeks his help. Help me, this person is trying to kill me, he's trying to hurt me. So Musa alayhi salam comes up to him, gives him one punch and knocks the guy out. It was a one-punch knockout where the man not only fell, but he died on the spot. Right away Musa alayhi salam was shocked. He said, this is from shaitan. I was not supposed to do this. This was from shaitan, and this whole situation that was created was a test, and I I have made a major mistake. Right away he started making tawbah. Oh Allah, forgive me, oh Allah, forgive me. Allah announces that I did forgive him. Then he said, oh Allah, as a part of my tawbah, I pledge to you that I will never lend my support to anyone who is a wrongdoer. Now, the thing is that there is a death, even if it was accidental. Even though Musa a.s. was trying to rescue that person whose life was in danger, in the process ended up taking the life of another person. So now Musa a.s. is somewhat of a fugitive in his own city. So one night as he is passing through, very quietly and secretly, he sees that same man of Bani Israel now in a fight with someone else. And again he's asking Musa a.s., help me, help me. So Musa a.s. says, you're the troublemaker. And he said, let me sort you out first. So when he was about to grab him, so this man started screaming, oh Musa, are you going to kill me like you killed the person yesterday? So he sounded the alarm and everyone heard this. So Musa a.s. had to get out of that situation. So there he goes off into some corner of the city, and a man comes to warn Musa a.s. that look, plans are being made to kill you. Fir'aun has had a sitting with his council. They were looking for a reason, because you were kind of creating an environment of dissent. You were always siding with Bani Israel, so they needed to get rid of you, but now they have an excuse. They have a reason. They have made the decision. The police are going to be out. They're going to kill you. You should leave. So Musa a.s. leaves, and he says that, okay, oh Allah, you saved me from these wrongdoers. And he's asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show him the right path. So with these du'as, he arrives in Jordan at Madian. So Madian is in modern day Jordan. Today it's a very small town. And if you were to drive through on the highway, you will see Madian as you're going south. There's nothing very great or prominent about it today, but it still exists. So we can measure the distance of the journey. It's a significant journey that he, alayhi salatu wasalam, undertook to get there. When he gets there, making dua the whole time, he sees a well, and there are people that are pulling water for their animals from this well. And there are two young ladies that are standing on the side. They also have brought their animals, but they're keeping their animals away from everyone. So right away Musa a.s. said, what is the problem? How come you're not getting water? So they said, well, we don't go and intermingle with those men. We don't go into the thick of this crowd of men. And as to why we are doing this and not some man of the household, well, we only have a father and he's very old. So right away Musa a.s. jumped in with those shepherds and started pulling water. He pulled all of this water, gave it to them, and then turned towards a tree and started making dua. From this, we learn the adab of doing a good deed before making dua. That doing a good deed and making dua after that increases the chances of the acceptance of that dua. So if somebody they earnestly need something from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, go and do a good deed and then ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala higher chances. And in this particularly, Musa a.s. could have stood up and started praying as well, but he went and helped somebody. And what does Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tell us? The rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Wallahu fi auni al-abdi ma kana al-abdu fi auni akhihi. Allah is helping a person as long as they are helping others. And a person who removes distress, a worldly distress from someone, Allah will remove the distress of akhirah for this person. So, what did he do? He helped somebody out, he removed their distress, he solved their problem. Then he turned towards this tree and he said, Rabbi inni lima alzalta ilayya min khairin faqir. Oh Allah, I am greatly in need of whatever good you send down for me. So as he was making this dua, the girls got home early that day. Their father asked them, how come you're earlier today? They said, oh, there was a gentleman, he came, he asked us what was wrong, then he went and he pulled the water, and usually we have to wait for everyone to finish pulling water, but today we got our turn early and so we came home. So then he sent one of them back, that go and bring this man. He was a prophet, Shu'aib alayhi salam, according to most Mufassirin. And he said, you go and bring him back so we can compensate him. Inside, he knew that there is more to this person than she is telling, than she knows. So she came, how? In a very modest and a very shy way. جاءت إحداهما تمشي على استحياء. She came in a very shy way. And she right away got to the point where she gave him just the message that needed to be conveyed. My father is calling you. Why is he calling you? He wants to compensate you for getting the water for us. So Musa alayhi salam thought that there is some khair, there is some good in this. This is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So she leads him back to her father, and right away Shu'aib alayhi salam welcomes him and says, look, now you have nothing to fear. Musa alayhi salam told him everything that had happened, who I am, what has happened, what brings me here, and so on and so forth. He says, don't worry, here you're safe. So then one of the girls suggested that, Father, why don't you hire him? You need help, you're too old to look after the animals and so on and so forth. So then he said, how do I hire this person and also keep this person, such a strong, physically strong person, so trustworthy, so modest, so honest. So one of them suggested just hire him. So then he said, okay, let me kill 2 birds in 1 stone. He said, I want to marry you to one of my daughters, but I want you to stay here for some years. I want you to stay here for at least 8 years. If you can complete 10 years, that's from your side, that's up to you. I don't want to be overly hard on you. Musa alayhi salam agrees, and then he lives there. So he's married, he lives there, and when the time period is up, 8 years, or most likely 10 years, then he says, okay, it's time for me to go back. Time for me to go back home. So he takes his family, he takes his wife, and they start making this long journey back to Egypt. And it is along this way, it's dark, it's cold, and windy. So he sees a fire in the distance. He says, let me go and get some fire. We can have some light, we can have some warmth as well. And there, the whole incident of the nubuwah of Musa alayhi salam takes place. Now, from this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives many, many lessons. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, first of all, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you weren't there. You weren't there when all of this happened. How do you know about it? There is no way of you to know about it if we had not revealed it to you. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that these people who are objecting against you, they don't realize that prophets do not get nubuwah by expecting it or asking for it. It's always unexpected. So, yes, you have lived here for your whole life, but you had no idea this was going to happen. But this has always been the case. Musa alayhi salam also had no idea when this was going to happen. And if they are saying that, well, we weren't there when you received the first revelation, we weren't there when you were being given this prophethood, well, no one was there when Musa alayhi salam was being given prophethood either. And so many people believe in that, so many people follow that and live by that. So, this was a quick recount of the story. Of course, after that he goes to Fir'aun's palace, and bits and pieces of this story have been given in the previous 2 surahs, which is what kind of makes these 3 surahs a complete set. When you take the account from Surah Shu'ara and from Surah An-Naml and from Surah Al-Qasas, and you put it together, you get the complete story of Musa alayhi salam, as well as other prophets alayhi salatu wasalam. So these were some of the highlights of Surah Al-Qasas. Then after this we go into Surah Al-Ankabut, and Ankabut literally means the spider. And this surah takes its name from a passage in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compares people who take helpers or idols, gods besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their example is like a spider which weaves a web. So the web is visible, you can see it, but it is the flimsiest of abodes. وَإِنَّ أَوْهَنَ الْبُيُوتِ لَبَيْتُ الْعَنْكَبُوتِ. It is the flimsiest of abodes. The smallest animal can just brush by it and tear it and break it. Even though it will take a long time for the spider to weave that web, but even a child can break it with the sweep of one hand. So people who take helpers other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, their system that they create may be very intricate, just like the web of a spider is very intricate. If you were to look at it closely, you think, wow, how much work has gone joining this strand to this and this to this, and it's a very intricate pattern of threads, but it's also very flimsy. So similarly, people may put in very intricate systems in the world to look after their needs and to do many, many things. But the thing is, if the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not with that, it's just like the web of a spider. Anything will come and tear it apart. And that's why so many nations, countries, powers in the world have crumbled so quickly, seemingly without any effort. It's just completely fallen apart. So this is where the surah takes its name. The opening of the surah emphasizes one very important principle, and that is that whenever somebody will claim to have iman, they are going to be tested. It will never be that a person claims to have iman and tests will not come. So it's the sunnah, it's the way and the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wherever there is iman, there are tests and trials. And part of the test and trial is that a person thinks, well, I believe in Allah, why am I having to go through this? No, you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's specifically why you have to go through it, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to build in you a level of unconditional faith and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Does not want you to be in a position where you're only believing in Allah when it's convenient. When things are going your way, when things are favorable, Allah Azza wa Jal wants unconditional iman. And He says that always in the past, whenever people of iman came forward, Allah Azza wa Jal tested them. He tested them, He put them through hardships, put them through afflictions. So this is a message to the Muslims in Makkah, who at that time are going through great amounts of persecution. That look, this is not something new. Like somebody came to the Prophet ﷺ, a group of Sahaba came to the Prophet ﷺ. He was lying down in front of the Kaaba on his sheet, and they said, "Ala tastansiru lana, ala tad'u lana." Don't you seek Allah's help for us? Don't you make dua? So the Prophet ﷺ sat up, and then he said, "Look, granted that what you're going through is very difficult, but did you know that people before you, just for being a Muslim, just for believing in the Prophet of their time, they would have a hole dug in the ground, they would be put there, and their body would be sawed in half while they're alive to turn them away from their deen. But still that would not turn them away from their deen. وَلَكِنَّكُمْ تَسْتَعْجِلُونَ. You are getting impatient. So tests will come. And look, part of the test, an important part of the test is, do you stay firm on your deen or do you start modifying your deen? You see, the Muslims in Makkah could have done many things that would appease the anger of Quraysh. They could have done many things. They could have said, okay, let's compromise. Like people came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, okay, how about we do this? We'll worship Allah for 1 year and then we'll worship our idols 1 year. How about this? How about we make compromises in this? We make compromises in this. How about, okay, you go ahead and worship God, but you also acknowledge us. Part of the test of believers that are living in a society that does not agree with them is, will they compromise their faith or not? That's why the entire approach of trying to water down the deen, try to dilute the deen, or in our context, trying to westernize the deen to make it more palatable, this is actually eroding away the very substance of deen from which it is constructed. This is not a service to deen. This is not a service to Islam. This is not a service to Quran. This is not ijtihad. This is not ijtihad. This is an erosion of Islam. This is washing away and getting rid of those things that you feel are making you uncomfortable. That's all it is. Ijtihad is the application of Islamic laws, Islamic principles to new circumstances, which will continue to arise until Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's all it is. But we hear people saying, such and such thing is getting very difficult, let's make ijtihad. Scholars need to make ijtihad on this. What do you mean scholars need to make ijtihad? If you mean scholars need to change the principles because you're living somewhere else, that's not Islam. That is the changing of Islam. That is tahrif. Now that is an alteration in the deen. And many religions have done this. This is not something new in the world. To adjust to the social climate, the cultural climate, many religions have made modifications. Their examples are in front of us. But as Muslims, we believe that Allah Azza wa Jal has given us this deen in a complete and perfect way. And we believe that this deen in its complete form is here for us, for our salvation, until Yawm al-Qiyamah. So we will not shed parts of it that are making us uncomfortable, or that are making people uncomfortable, or that are unpalatable for people. They don't welcome it. We don't stylize our deen and chip out pieces of it and pretend that they're not there. So these tests have come before, and they will continue to come. And then there is mention of some of the Anbiya alayhimu salatu wasalam, and then we will continue with Surah Al-Ankabut inshallah into tomorrow's Taraweeh. This was a very brief summary of what we will be reciting tonight. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us the ability to understand, to reflect, and to implement these beautiful teachings of His book and bring them into our lives. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi.